Hello. Uh, just delay and very good evening to all. To begin with, may I first request everyone to kindly put your mobile phone on silent. Thank you. Hello. Hello. Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm Tenzin Legman from Program D. Hello. I'm Tenzin Legman from Program Division, and I welcome you all to our first in-person Tibet House program since the pandemic on exhibition and lecture on life and legacy of Atiśa Dīpankara Śrījñāna, and to briefly introduce the great saint philosopher of the 10th to 11th century, Master Atiśa Sri Dīpankara. He was born in the village Vajrayogini in Bikrampur region of Bengal, currently in Bangladesh in 982 CE. He was among the last great Indian teachers who went to Tibet for re-establishing and cleansing the Buddhism. He revolutionized the social, religious and cultural lives of the people in Tibet. Master Atisha is almost forgotten in India, but has been venerated for nearly 1,000 years as a revered personality, as a shining symbol of peace, compassion, humanism, self-sacrifice, harmony and amity, who devoted all his energies to the dissemination of the Dharma in many Asian countries and regions, especially the north of the Himalayas. He is remembered as the highest of all venerables all over the Buddhist world for laying the foundation of pure Buddhism in Tibet. So before we proceed with the main event of today, on behalf of Tibet House, Cultural Center of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, New Delhi, I would like to extend our warm welcome to our respected convener for today's program, Professor Dr. Shashibala, Dean, Center of Indology, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, Delhi Kendra, and our chairperson for today's program, Keshadoji Damdula, Director of Tibet House, New Delhi, to kindly come up and start the gathering by lighting the lamp of wisdom. Thank you. Please take your respective seats. I request Dr. Shashibala and Geshala to please take the seats over here. To begin with, first I would like to give a brief introduction about Tibet House. Tibet House Cultural Center of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, New Delhi, was established in 1965 by His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama of Tibet for the purpose of preserving the cultural heritage of Tibet. Over a period of 5 decades since its inception, Tibet House has come to recognize as a significant institution for the dissemination of Tibetan culture and for Buddhist studies. Tibet House has a museum of valuable Tibetan arts and artifacts as well as a library. Every year, a publication unit from Tibet House publishes around 10 to 15 books a year, and program division which regularly organizes lectures, seminars, conference, film screenings and exhibitions. Tibet House offers 4 different courses on Buddhist philosophy, psychology, and Tibetan language courses. Yeah, as you can see on the screen, the 4 different courses are Nalinda Master Course, which is a 5 years course, Nalinda Diploma Course, which is a 14 months course, Nalinda Certificates Course, which is a 2 months course, and Tibetan Language Course, which is a 4-month course. Firstly, the first batch of Nalinda Master Course, which was launched on 9 December 2016 on the occasion of 51st anniversary of Tibet House in the gracious presence of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, along with Shri Kiran Rijuji, the former Union State Minister of Home Affairs, and Shri Najib Jung, Lieutenant Governor of Delhi. The first batch of Nalinda Master Course, Batch 1, is completed with 372 students from 44 different countries, and second batch of Nalinda Master Course, which has already started in July, in which around 900 participants were enrolled from 54 different countries. And secondly, the Nalinda Diploma Course, which was launched on 2018. Till now, we have successfully completed with 3 batches, and the 4 batches of the Nalinda Diploma Course is being offered, and the registration is still open. And very recently, we have a 2 months Nalinda Certificate Course, which is being offered to students who wish to acquire knowledge of various Buddhist subjects in order to lay a basic foundation of Nalinda Buddhist philosophy. And till now, we have successfully completed the first batch of Nalinda Certificate Course so far. And last, the Tibetan Language Course, which is now both online and offline. Till now, 23 batches have been successfully completed, and 24th batch has already started in December 2022. Thank you. Now I would like to request Geshe Dorje Damdula, Director of Tibet House, New Delhi, to kindly chair the session. And to briefly introduce Geshe-la, he is currently the Director of Tibet House, New Delhi, the cultural center of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. While being assigned with the responsibility of the directorship of Tibet House, he also gives regular lectures and leads philosophy classes in Tibet House and other places as well. He travels widely within India and abroad to teach Buddhist philosophy, psychology, logic and practice. He has also worked on several books as assigned by the Office of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. He visited US in 2008 to work with Professor Paul Ekman on His Holiness the Dalai Lama's book, Ethics for a New Millennium, Part 2, and the book series Art of Happiness, which were jointly written by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, such as The Graded Path. He has written a number of papers for national and international conferences on topics such as the paradox of the brain and mind and ultimate reality according to Arya Nagarjuna. He is currently in the process of writing 2 important books, one entitled Journey into the Paradox of Brain and Mind, and other, What Constitutes the Ultimate Reality, the effect of understanding the ultimate reality. Thank you. Geshe-la.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello. 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 Thank you. Tenzilemmala. And welcome you all to Tibet House here. In fact, how this exhibition and the account sharing of this by the exhibition convener, Professor Shashibala ji. How it happened was that it has been many years that I've been knowing Dr. Shashibala ji. And since my first encounter with Dr. Shashibala ji, I came to feel that there's a great purity there, and that she is really for knowledge, to disseminate knowledge, with no ulterior motive, with nothing no expectation in return. And this is something which struck me, and in this regard, I requested Professor Shashibala to give the talks to Tibet House in the earlier years. And this time, the committee know about her research on Lama Atisha Dīpankara Śrījñāna, an incredibly great, brilliant master. So I was so tempted, I was so eager that this program must be organized, and Lama Atisha Dīpankara Śrījñāna, and that it was just a post-COVID, and we're just wondering as to where to organize this program. And it has been like all these last almost 2.5 years, the program that Tibet House we have been organizing were all online as other institutions. And this time, the exhibition, I thought the need for us to have this exhibition done here. So with this, it is very auspicious, number one, that the whole exhibition is on Lama Atisha Dīpankara Śrījñāna, and later on, first, let us listen to Dr. Shashibala, and after this, I also like to share a little bit about the philosophy of Lama Atisha Dīpankara Śrījñāna. So, having said this, the topic for this exhibition and the talk here is Lama Atisha Dīpankara Śrījñāna, 11th century great master, and who was in fact revered as an incredibly great, like the pioneer, or like the tower, standing extremely the tall tower of Buddhist philosophy in India. And then he was invited to Tibet, and today what you see of the Tibetan Buddhism in Tibet and here spread all over the world, including India, what is happening in Tibet House, elsewhere in the world. So this is all because of the greatly what was refined, fine-tuned by Lama Atisha Dīpankara Śrījñāna. So as Mr. Tenzin Lingmala rightly indicated, that in India, unfortunately, it simply become less known. But then, once we know the legacies left by this great master, you will see that this is something the Indians, then everyone who treasures the culture of the knowledge should revere and respect. So here we have Dr. Shashibala, a great Indologist, as I said earlier, somebody who is fully dedicated to disseminate the knowledge, and particularly her love, her passion for disseminating the awareness of this great master, Lama Atisha Dīpankara Śrījñāna. We can see that it's just exuding from her the talks, which have actually initially happened in my office. So this is the Dr. Shashibala, and of course, for information, Dr. Shashibala, she was awarded the highest, the civilian award from Mongolia, referred to as the Order of the Polar Star, and honored by the President of Mongolia, I think last year? 2 years ago. 2 years ago? Yeah. In fact, soon after she having received the award, they were together in my office, and I was so glad to know that. And also that she is currently one of the leading Indologists in India, and a great contributor, being invited everywhere in the world to listen to her. So without much ado, I'd like to invite Dr. Shashibala. So we have about 40 minutes of talk, followed by question answers, and then in terms of the philosophy of Lama Atiśa Śrījñāna, I'd just like to share with you very quickly after Dr. Shashibalaji's talk so that you will come to feel the value. Once you know how he traveled, what he did and so forth, and particularly the historical account of this from Dr. Shashibalaji, then they will be keen to learn from this great master, Lama Atiśa, and his legacies. Okay, so Dr. Shashibalaji, thank you so much for accepting our invitation. Thank you, and the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Most Venerable Geshe Doji Damdulji, all the distinguished friends, scholars, members of Tibet House. I'm really grateful to Geshe Doji Damdul that he accepted that let us do this exhibition here. It's our duty actually. We are not doing for ourselves anything. It's for the Dharma. And what is the value of Dharma? I think the situation today, the crisis in the world, so many types. People are suffering. People were not so unhappy that they are today. Whatever they had, Dharma was more important. Please permit me to share how I took up this project. Long ago, I did a project at IGNCA on the Buddhist master Kumarajiva. I organized an international conference and an exhibition also, which went really successfully. And people were so much impressed to know about the 5th century, 4th century master and his contribution to the world. And what we need today. Then I decided, okay, let me work on another master, because all these masters, they are forgotten in India, but it's really required that we research, we revisit and revive the forgotten legacy of these masters to help the world. So, as usual, there was a press conference, and the first question that I was asked was very blunt. He asked, why are you wasting public money? Because in India nobody knows about who is Atisha, who was he, what he did. So we don't care. I said, okay, please reply 2 of my questions, then I will reply all your questions. So I asked them, you people, the media people, you are writing that something has gone wrong over 20-25 years. I am telling you the story that happened around 8 years or so before. So, what is that which has gone wrong in our past for 20 years or 30 years or 20 years, whatever? And why these young people are shouting slogans in the streets, because that time that rape case in the bus had happened and people were really disturbed and they were shouting slogans in the streets, we need change. So please tell me that what is that change that they are demanding for, and how that change can be brought. So naturally they could not answer. After a pause I said, okay, do you permit me to answer? Yes, of course. I said, Dharma has gone down. If there is Dharma in life, then everybody follows certain principles. Their minds are groomed in a way that you maintain a balance in the society. You don't work only for the fulfillment of your, not only the fulfillment of your unsatiable desires. Every day they are fueled by materialism. You need something, moral values, and that is Dharma, that gives us, that maintains a balance, that gives us peace of mind, that works, everybody works for well-being of others. So only then there can be no crisis. Today we are all just shattered by the wars, by the bombs. Every day we are listening to the media people in our television and our newspapers. What is happening? Because people are running after gaining more and more power. What is that power? The power is all material, political, but at the cost of others' lives. That should not happen. Everybody is trying to find some way, means to find a solution, but nobody has it because people are not openly talking about dharma. They say dharma and politics cannot be united. But how and why? Nobody raises a question. You look at the national flag of Mongolia, there are two main pillars. One is of dharma, one is of state. Dharma is very important for running a state. And for dharma, state is important. If state doesn't sponsor, then it is difficult for dharma. So this is what happened in Tibet also. So we are going to visit the exhibition upstairs. It's about Śrījñāna. I'm just shifting it, the Shri component of the name, because according to Sanskrit, the original name is Dīpankara, who had the knowledge. So Shri comes first as an honorific title, but according to Tibetan language, it comes later. So that is why Dīpankara Śrījñāna. Anyway, I'm not going into the this controversy. So what we are talking about is borderless prajna. The knowledge, the prajna is much higher than that. Today we are invaded by information. What we need is beyond that. Not just information, we need knowledge, but not just knowledge, because knowledge can be of many kinds. Keshila, you cannot be a terrorist. I cannot be a terrorist, because we are educated in a way, the knowledge that we have is different from a terrorist. A terrorist cannot be a monk because his knowledge is different. So what we need is compassion. We need loving kindness. But what is love? Love means sacrifice. If we don't sacrifice, then love has no meaning. You can just keep on saying, I love you, I love you, I love you, but the love doesn't happen. So, what Atisha did, where was he born, how he went to Indonesia, something amazing is that during his life he had studied under around 100 teachers, the topmost teachers of India. But still he decided to go to Indonesia to study under Sedlingpa. That means, that proves that his level of knowledge was higher, or something special was there, that he stayed there for so long to study there. And finally Sedlingpa presented him, you will see many pictures from Indonesia, and also beginning with the life, with the birth of Atisha. It's very difficult to get this history. It's scattered. Only my friend, she is German, she lives in Thailand, and she happened to be in Tibet 5 times. And during her visits, whatever photographs she could bring, some of them are very, very rare photographs that you will see today, because these things cannot be opened. For example, the statue of Tara that Atisha used to carry with him wherever he went was always put behind a glass. It was always shut, closed in a cupboard. But one of her teachers, when my friend went there, the teacher, Indonesian teacher, was also with her, and to bless him, to bless the teacher, the monk there, he took out the statue of Tara and blessed him. That is how we could have the photograph. So, how it all happened, it's a long history. So, it's all, I tried to put some text panels also, so that people can, anybody who comes to have a visit, to visit the exhibition, he can have enough of stuff there. So, was it the invasion of the Cholas? Was it the volcanic eruptions there? What was the reason? We don't know, but whatever. Selimpa advised him, and he told and he predicted that Atisha will go to Tibet. And he presented him 6 texts to take to Tibet. He specially wrote them, and only one of them could be identified so far. So, it's in Labrang Monastery. So, I put a picture there of the Labrang Monastery and also the manuscript, that is palm leaf manuscript, that was presented by his teacher. Now, he returned from there, and by that time on one side he was receiving requests from the Tibetan king Geshe that he should come to Tibet to re-establish dharma, being such an outstanding devoted scholar. And on the other side, invasions had already started in India. Monasteries were being destroyed. Universities, the students, you know the story of so many universities there, how they were destroyed, how monks were slain, how students were just slain because of nothing. So, it's a long history, I am cutting it short. So, Master Atisha was in a confusion, what should he do, or whether, because he had responsibility of so many universities and monasteries, it was difficult for him to get permission to leave India in that situation. He was so confused, and he started praying to Goddess Tara. What should he do? Goddess Tara was his deity the whole of his life. So, she appeared and told her that if you go to Tibet, you can live for 72 years, but if you stay in India, your life can be for 92 years. But you should go to Tibet to save the dharma. Finally, he took the decision. The Tibetans who were already there, already it's a long history again, how Tibetans were coming, how Lotsavas were working with Indian masters, and how texts were being translated, and what kind of knowledge was already being transferred, and it's a long history. So, he decided to go. He took his disciples with him. One of them knew Sanskrit, he was Tibetan. So, what was the language of communication? Atisha at that time didn't know much Tibetan. His disciple, when he started traveling on his way, he was in Nepal, and the chief disciple who was doing all the interpretation work, he passed away. Atisha was so unhappy, so sad that he had lost, it's written that he said that he lost his tongue. So, my question at that time was, when I was working on Kumarajiva, after that I went to travel on the Silk Route. When we were traveling Ishila on the Silk Route, sometimes 3 times it happened that we traveled in one day around 800 kilometers. And finally, when we reached the hotel, we said it was very tiring. So, the question that came to my mind is that today we are traveling by air conditioned cars, staying in hotels, telling what we shall eat, everything is so well arranged, and still we are saying it's a tiring journey. So when I visited the places of Kumarajiva, I was so emotional and I was so touched, even now I am getting so emotional, that how were these masters traveling? They did not know the language. Kumarajiva, when he was traveling to China, he did not know Chinese language. The food that they used to have, for example, Master Atisha, the food that he had in India was not available in Tibet. The altitude was so high, he was not used to live in that. He was told by Goddess Tara that he will cut short his life by 20 years. Nothing was to gain. It was all, whatever these masters were given was given to be given. They did not have any copyrights, no patents. Today, before anything comes to the market, we put a stamp, this is my patent, this is my copyright. But whatever knowledge that they had, and I have seen people that who have a high level of consciousness, knowledge downloads, really knowledge downloads to them. And this is how these masters got this so much of immense knowledge and they gave to people. They sacrificed their lives. What were they demanding? Nothing. Just dharma for having peace, brotherhood, compassion, love, so that everybody can flourish. How world changed when Buddhism reached these lands. You look at the history of China, you look at the history of Southeast Asia, you look at history of many other countries. Before Buddhism, my friends will acknowledge that before Buddhism there was a tomb culture in most of the countries. As soon as Buddhism reached there, tomb culture changed into temple culture. The energy of the ruling class, it shifted from building tombs to temples. Monasteries, beautiful caves. Each wall was or is still covered. Whatever ruins we see, it's so touching that how they could be destroyed everywhere. So, we are going to see all this today. I am not going into the details. I want to take you a little bit back into history about Tibet, that what was happening before Tibet. When you visit there, although I have never had the chance of visiting, but whatever I am told, whatever I can see is the land of purity, land of simplicity. The skies are open, pure blue. How this culture is developed, how this dharma is developed. In all over the world, not only this, all the cultures, all the kinds of dharma or religions, they are developed in a certain kind of geographical setting. And that influences, that has an impact on the minds of the people who develop it. So whatever is developed in India, it is developed under pure blue sky, sitting on the banks of the rivers. There is nature that gives you everything. You even don't need that much. If you become greedy, then there is nothing, then there is not enough. But if you are not greedy, then nature gives you enough. So what we see there now, what was there are just now today we have only the echoes of the memories of the glittering, of the sparkling monasteries, the temples, the state that it was, the sanctity of the state, the esoteric revelations of the monks, of the masters. But today, silence prevails. Silence can be of many kinds. Today when I was coming There was so much noise around it, I was making a phone call. I said, there is too much noise. My friend said, it's better to have noise. We don't need silence. Silence can be of many kinds. Silence of peace, but silence of something. When there is not, you don't have people, people are just crushed. So Tibet is the land of compassion. Tibet holds the history of sublime centuries. It was a divine territory. It is still. And wherever today, if you look at the world map and you Google through Buddhism in the world, you will see, you will accept, you will realize the contribution. After being just pushed out of Tibet, how the Tibetan Lamas have worked so hard, reaching different lands, and they have established Dharma. In the far off lands where they did not had visited before, they did not know before it. So, the land of wisdom, the land of compassion. When I look into the eyes of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas and also the masters, I composed a small poem. Look into the eyes of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, how they look at you. Then you will understand the compassion there, the love, the kindness that they are giving us. This is a blessing that we need. And today, when we are just, the lives are being shattered by being greedy, we need this. Just let me take you back a little bit into history, that the earliest mention of Tibetan history come from the annals of Han dynasty, which mentions Tibetan tribes and Chiang and Tik, and people who lived to the west of Chang'an around 1500 BC. So, there were so many tribes spread along the eastern borderland of the Tibetan plateau. The little kingdoms of the tribes were ruled by chiefs. In 247 BC, the first Tibetan king founded the new dynasty, and the first castle was built, Yumbulakhang. You will see a picture upstairs of Yumbulakhang and the king who built it. After that, at that time was at par with the two civilizations, one India on one side and China on the other side. In 322, Indian Emperor Chandragupta founded the Mauryan dynasty, BC I am talking about. By 257 BC, Emperor Ashoka consolidated the Mauryan Empire and he gained renown. Internationally, he became famous. While India was becoming a powerful state, Tibet was also coming up as a powerful state in the Himalayas. From a tribal order, it had become a state. How it became, I will come to it. But I must point out here that quarter of a century later, after Tibet, China established, it was unified by the Qin dynasty in 222 to 206 BC. The centralized Tibetan state was formed earlier than China. It was a very powerful state. How and the best proof of Tibet becoming a state, when they received the Buddhist texts, currency notes, if Geshe-la you still have them, up till 1950, they were dated, you minus 1950, 233 years, and that is the date of receiving Buddhist texts. And from that begins the date of formation of state. If you look at the Bompo map of the world, that indicates that Tibet had strong commercial, political, cultural relations with many countries around it in the 3rd century BC. From around 250 to 100 BC, Tibet was ruled by 7 heavenly thrones, beginning with the royal burial practices. We can look at the technological advances, social and religious changes also. Then comes the time of the birth of Lhatathori, the last of the 5 Chan kings, and the date is 374 AD. It was an important step in the future evolution of Tibet and its consolidation through culture, literature, of course, dharma. Because whatever literature was translated from Sanskrit into Tibet was dharma literature. And the per capita knowledge, you can say, today we talk about income. It was not income, it was knowledge, it was very high. And systematization of even Sanskrit texts, writing commentaries, everything was done much on a higher level by the Tibetans. The translations that the Lotsavas did is amazing, and also they translated the whole of Sanskrit dictionary, Amar Kosha. They translated so many grammatical texts into Tibetan. When I was working for my MPhil thesis, Dr. Lokesh Chandra being my teacher, my guru, he said, Shashi, you should look into the catalogue of Tibetan Tanjore also about the Sanskrit texts on grammar outside India. Can you believe that I made a list of 49 Sanskrit grammatical texts available in translations into Tibetan? I took that list to the scholar who had written the history of Sanskrit. He agreed that many of the texts are not even known by name in the. So, Keshandra and Raghuveera, and also because of the translation of Amar Kosha and the grammatical text, as I say. So, it's not that kind of a challenge that we cannot do it. So, in 433, they received Buddhist texts, sacred objects, mantras, which transformed the king into with a new energy, and consolidation of the state found its culmination during the reign of Śrījñāna Gampo. Śrījñāna Gampo ruled from 618 to 641. Tibetan script was created. You see, having a huge empire needs administration, and if you want to administer a huge area, you need a script. So, an alphabetical infrastructure for running the administration, communicating with the people in all the different parts of an empire, it became possible. Many dialects of Tibetan, different areas in Tibet, from parts of Tibet, they could come together because of writing grammar. They wrote their own grammar also. So, Tibet had a linguistic unity. So, how dharma has given foundation, it is important to understand that. So, there is a huge history, long history of more than 1,000 years of translation of Sanskrit text into Tibetan. How Śrījñāna Gampo invited artists, builders, and he not only invited from India, but also from Khotan, because Tibet was so powerful at that time. They also called experts, artists from Nepal and China. They took legal systems from Khotan and from the Turks, promulgated 6 codices of the first constitution, systematized the administration, fixed the hierarchy of the officials, giving them ranks and fixing the power. So, they took different ideas from around Tibet to have the most powerful state, and it was the most powerful state. How big was the empire of Tibet? And also, when I asked Professor Lokesh Chandra, not only of the political empire, but about the cultural empire, because we find Tibetan manuscripts, we find Tibetan written, or so many things, Tibetan monasteries, even in Beijing. So, how big was the cultural empire? He could not reply. He said it was so huge, we can't even explain it, but only they limited themselves to the cultural empire. Culture was not used for political, for building political, to extend the political empire. It was not misused, I should say. So, and also he entered into matrimonial alliances with two princesses, one was from Nepal, one was from China. So, internationally also so many things were being done. So, the two queens, one was the daughter of the Nepalese king Anshuvarman, her name was Bhrikuti, the Chinese princess, and both of them were given the honor, they were considered as incarnations of Devi Tara. One was Shamatara and one was Shweta Tara, that is green and white Tara. Bhrikuti brought a statue of Maitreya, Akshobhya and sandalwood statue and of Devi Tara. The Chinese princess brought a gem-studded statue of Shakyamuni. So, we can see that even the matrimonial alliance was not for political gains, but for dharma. So, different temples were built there. We should know what was happening in Tibet and what were the problems and why Atisha took this journey there. So, Thonmi Sambhot is also very important, he plays an important role. Thonmi Sambhot and 16 other scholars were sent to India to study, especially in Nalanda. Of course, they studied under which teachers, I am not going to into the details, but they first reached Kashmir, studied the script. Uchin was devised by him. So, he returned in 647, began translations and which continued from 7th to 17th century. So, you see, continuing this to 17th century was, if you look at the situation, political situation in India, it seems to be very, very challenging. Because people here, the monks, the scholars, they were just running, they were being slain. So, what was happening? So, what they gave us, how they worked in collaboration, they used to work together, the Indian and the Tibetan Lotsavas. So, then we come to the 7th century, Trisung Detsen, he ruled or 8th century, his empire extended up to Beijing, ruled from 755 until 797, or according to some records it is 805. He was the second son of the 3 Dharma kings of Tibet, established the Nyingma or the ancient school. So, again so much was done by him. Padmasambhava, you know, Shantarakshita, Vimalaki Mitra and many masters, some of whom we know, some of whom we do not even know. And you see, we should bring out that history. For example, the 84 Siddhas. There are different lists. If you compare the lists of different from different parts of the world, you will see that there are different lists of Siddhas. So, there is a list of 84 Siddhas in Tibet also, and I was so shocked when I saw one book on Siddhas and the title was Madmen. Because people do not understand the level, they cannot reach that level of knowledge that they had. So, how it all happened, what kind of relations were there, what kind of how the Samye monastery was built, how the council was, what kind of debates were going on. So, it is again a history. So, there is a fragment that is discovered from Dunhuang caves in China that praises Emperor Sronchang Gampo and other Dharma kings because They were so powerful, they said they possessed the bodies of men, but their ways were those of the gods. You see, all over Asia, there has been a concept that is called Deva Raja, that a Raja means a king rules as an incarnation of a divine being so that he can follow dharma. What was dharma? If you go back to Ashoka, look at the edicts of Ashoka, what he did as dharma activities was doing something for the well-being of the people. You can look at the details. Sorry, please, I lose my flow. We'll discuss later. So, Tibetans were controlling many parts of Central Asia. I did a research paper on Khotan about the dynasty, the Vijay dynasty, and in a history, in a Tibetan history, they have given details about the monasteries that were built by the kings of the Vijay dynasty. What kind of trade was going on, because trade makes a country powerful. So, different kinds of items they were importing from different parts and also exporting, and Tibet was so rich in gold even today. So rich in gold, a Sanskrit poet Kalidasa has written, called it Alkapuri, because gold was easily available there. So, it is again I am just cutting it short here. So, finally, I am just coming to the time when the king Ralpachen was assassinated in 836 or 8, again there is some controversy. So, the empire of the Dharma kings came to an end. His brother Langdharma was put on the throne. He began persecution of Buddhism. He was shot by a, people say, mad yogi. I don't want to use this word, mad yogi. I think he was so much full of dharma only. Then you will see a photograph of that also, who killed him. Thereafter, the state was fractured into small principalities. Political void resulted into retrieve of Tibetans from their erstwhile empire. So, this was a time when Tibet Dharma was being killed, and again I will not go into the details what was happening, but Tibetan kings, they wanted to re-establish Dharma, to bring peace in that, to have development in the country. You see, if you don't have Dharma, if you are on just killing people just to gain more power, then even the country, no country can develop like this. Even what is happening, all of you are aware of what is happening in Afghanistan. Is it developing or it is going down? Whatever is happening in all these countries because of terrorism, people are just saying today that they cannot develop. If they don't live with harmony, if they don't follow the principles of the harmony. So, now I come to the king Yesheo. Yesheo, what happened? Yesheo was sending missions, sending monks to request Atisha to come to Tibet, but Atisha was in a confusion, as I told earlier. And Langdharma, he had put him into prison, and he demanded gold of the weight of Yesheo. His nephew started collecting gold, and finally, when he reached with the gold to Langdharma, it was minus his, this much was less than that. Then he was not allowed to come out of the prison. Then Yesheo said, don't give this gold to this who is killing Dharma. Take this gold to India and use it for bringing Atisha. I am an old man now, how much shall I live? It doesn't matter if I live 5 years more or 10 years more, but re-establishing dharma is very important. Yeshu had come before also to India, and he knew about all this. So, it was very difficult. The time was so difficult. You can see the sacrifices. It's a history of sacrifice to re-establish dharma. So, finally, I come to Atisha again, that when he received so many requests and he decided, okay, I have to leave. It was really a difficult time for him to say goodbye to his masters, to the people here, to the monks, to the monasteries, to the university, because he was like a rector in the Vikramshila University. He was holding many responsibilities, and it was not a time for him to leave. Finally, he left and he went via Nepal, and according via Kailash Mansarovar. You will see the photographs there, and what kind of a welcome he had received before entering Ngari, and what kind of monasteries were there, how they were destroyed, and still they are all in ruins, what kind of ruins are there, and archaeologist has sent me some photographs of the ruins. So, that gives us an idea about it, that how the stupas were built, how they were decorated, how the monasteries were built, what kind of dharma was there, what kind of monasteries were built, how they were decorated, what kind of beautiful paintings were there, and what kind of philosophy was there, how the philosophy was given a pictorial form, because it's difficult for a common man to understand the philosophy, whatever has been written. So, many such texts have been given a pictorial form for the common people to understand and internalize the philosophy. So, it's done all over Asia. Wherever you will go, you will see, for example, Borobudur. When Atisha was there in Indonesia, so what we feel is because of the king that was ruling there, the Shailendra dynasty who had built this, you will see a temple there dedicated to goddess Tara, and a statue of goddess Tara. There are 21 Taras there in that temple, and by that time Borobudur were also built. So, what our teacher, one of the Indonesian spiritual teacher, who had the power of looking much behind, and he told us that yes, Atisha was there in Borobudur. So, you will see all those things here, and how he was there, what is the situation of the temples, of the monasteries where he visited in Indonesia, and from there he returns to India, and from here he goes to Tibet. Via Tibet he reaches Ngari, and then from western Tibet he went to central Tibet, and which are the monasteries which he visited, which he blessed, wherever Atisha went, it became a holy place. When he reached Samye, then he said that it's amazing that the Sanskrit manuscripts that were available in Samye, he had not seen in India. Even at that time, that was the situation. So, these monasteries were full of dharma, not only dharma. You see, the temples and monasteries, when we visit today, we visit as centers of dharma, but no, they are centers of dharma and jnana both. It is Buddhism that has preserved this tradition, that dharmodaya and shastrodaya, jnanodaya, that are together. You visit any of the monasteries, you have the sacred texts. So, knowledge, jnana, is always a part of dharma. It gives foundation to dharma, and Buddhists have preserved this tradition. When I went to Mongolia during my last visit, I found that the monasteries are rebuilt, but they are new and they don't have the kanjur and tanjur. And this is why they on returning, I requested the government of India, and they presented the whole set of 108 volumes of Mongol Kanjur, and now they have reached the monasteries, and people are so happy to get them, so happy. They are so much, they are sending so many blessings that they could reach there. So we people are blessed, we are happy, not by the materialism. Yes, we are born in this world, we need a good house, a comfortable living, whatever we need, it's okay, we should be satisfied with that. But today we have become hungry ghosts. In monasteries, in Tibet, Buddhist monasteries, wherever you will go, you will see the cycle, one circle that gives you, shows you the level of 6 levels of existence. The wheel of existence. What is that? In every human being of this 5 to 6 feet body, we have all the good and the bad qualities. I have, you have. We have the qualities of animals, we have the qualities of demons, we have the qualities of hungry ghosts, we have the qualities of being a human being, we have the qualities, the divine qualities of. Also, as Buddha said, everybody has the divine spark, Atta Dipo Bhava. One has to be his own lamp to live this world, in this world peacefully. So, when I talk about lamp, this comes to my mind. Then one of the most famous texts by Atisha is the lamp for the path of enlightenment. Atisha brought bodhicitta, the concept of bodhicitta, from Indonesia. Sometimes it is difficult for people to understand the concept of bodhicitta, the concept of super knowledge. Bodhicittas, some people accept that it is a Javanese concept, and it is developed later on when Atisha brought it. So I was doing some analysis of the lamp for the path of enlightenment, this being the most popular and text, but it is not, could never be final. I kept working for some time, then I did not have time to work on it. Maybe sometime I will give this analysis what I understand, because you see what the masters wrote, what they said, it is very difficult to understand them, because today we do not have the level of understanding that they had. That is our problem, and that is the reason why many texts are misunderstood and misinterpreted. And when we translate them from one language to another, then again we lose the essence, because the philosophical terms are difficult to be translated. Sometimes it is impossible to translate them. So, Geshe-la, I was just writing this thing, it could not be complete, but doing an analysis that how these concepts are there in this small text. It is full of knowledge, but very briefly and written for the common people to understand. Because what was the requirement in Tibet that time was, there were monks, yes, there was knowledge, yes, but what was happening is that people had forgotten the path, the actual path shown by the Buddha. It was, Atisha did not divide the path. He was not talking about the Theravada, the Mahayana, the Vajrayana or Mantrayana, no. For him there was only one path, that was Buddhayana. And people who could understand the tantras, people there were who could not understand the tantras, they were mistranslating and giving wrong interpretations, because the tantras were written by the great masters which could not be understood by the people of that time. So things were in the position, in the situation was not good at that time. So people were to be inspired, common man was to be enlightened to be on the path of dharma. So, whatever he has written, sometimes you will see that the texts are not very long. Look at the texts written by Atisha, they are small texts. And I can understand when we work among the people, for example, after organizing this conference on Atisha and publishing the proceedings and the catalogue, one of my friends, she said, Shashi, what are you doing? You are just a few scholars sitting inside a hall and you are not sharing this knowledge with the common people. So, her name is Mrs. Aruna Vasudev, and then she took the decision to get 6 books written on great Buddhist masters, and that time I did a small book on Atiśa so that people could learn. She said, do it simply so that people know about Atiśa, because in India it is forgotten. And people do not, we do not want to go into the complicated history. We do not want to go into the complexity. So, a common people needs something different than a scholar. A common people needs something different than what a king or an emperor needs. Everybody has different types of requirements. So, when you look at the works of Atisha, so traveling from one place to another, it was harsh for him. And finally, after traveling all over, he stayed in Netang, and Netang is a place where in the monastery there is his stupa, where there are his belongings in one stupa and ashes in another stupa. And what I am told by my Guru again, that it was Dr. Raghuvira, when he went to China on his visit as a guest of Prime Minister Chou En-lai, he had insisted that and requested that not to destroy this monastery, not to destroy this temple, the stupas there that contain the belongings of Atisha. I do not know, there is no proof what happened and how, but finally they are not destroyed. So, you can see them. You can see the goddess Tara, the statue of Tara that he used to get. You can see, although it is just photographs, but still it is important to see the staff, the walking stick of Atisha. So, I welcome you all with these few words about Atisha and what was happening before then, and how Buddhism is important, how was it important before, only in the from a Tibetan perspective, but Buddhism has played a great role in the development, civilizational development, cultural development, intellectual development, artistic development, ethical development, all kinds of development. There is a huge contribution which is not much talked about, although my friend is there, she has written books on that, and you have as a distinguished audience here, I know many of you must be knowing so much, but still whatever I want to present as a background, just the foundation, why this exhibition comes to Tibet House and what is the value, the relevance that we still should look at. So, with all these words, I thank you all. Thank you, Gishila, very much for giving this chance to talk to you. I don't know how much time did I take.
Thank you, Dr. Shashibala. Thank you so much for your lucid the presentation, particularly taking us back to the history of Tibet, which is very rarely done by the today's scholars for many reasons. Here we see that Dr. Shashibala spoke the heart, spoke the truth that she feels is very important, because history is history. We cannot change the history, but people with the power, they think that the history is not in line with their thinking, so they want to change the history. but the fact cannot be fact, cannot be changed. And Dr. Shashibala is so courageously presented the facts here. And also that the just for information, yes, Dr. Shashibala mentioned many of the aspects of the Lama Atisha Dīpankara Śrījñāna's what is the legacies of the great master in terms of the place where he went, the items that he carried with, and so forth. This all you see in the photographs there. And but before we entered this hall, I just bumped into the exhibition hall, and Dr. Shashibala happened to be there. And then I just asked her, how did you organize what is the sequence like? Because yesterday the Tibet House staff, they put it in the office, and then Dr. Shashibala came and said that no, this is not the order. Of course, this is the it cannot be done like this. It's not simply because they just put it like randomly. No, there's a reason there. And they particularly as for a convener, it must be done according to convener's wish, and Tibet House staff, they're all very young. So they just display things randomly. And then Dr. Shashibala came and said that this is not how it works. So there's a reason why I put photographs in a particular order. So starting from you enter the hall, you enter the main room, and then starting from the left. So this says, when I entered the hall, Dr. Shashibala I asked her as to what is the significance what is the reason for this particular order, and Dr. Shashibala explained it so well. So said that, so it's for all of us. You enter the hall, turn to the left, this is how you began, where most of the stories of Lama Atisha Dīpankara Śrījñāna, you find them in the murals of Dipung Monastery, Tibet. So this is how she began with the pictures of Dipung, and then the murals there, and from there the story began. So this is how we can enjoy the exhibition. And also that the one thing which I really liked about the Shashibala's exhibition is that it is more like self-explanatory. You go there and all the photographs below, the captions are so well done, and you can really enjoy it, that you can be a part of you can book back in time by going through this exhibition. So, and in terms of the unique contribution of Lama Atisha Dīpankara Śrījñāna, this is something that we need to keep in mind, that as Shashibala herself, I'm very fascinated because that there's such the passion there in Dr. Shashibala. It's not like a scholar, but a scholar with a really passion to save humanity, save the country, save the world, and that going through Dr. Shashibala just her own the efforts working on Lama Atisha Dīpankara Śrījñāna's the book, the master book, which is the what's that? The Bodhipat Pratibha, the lamp of the path to enlightenment. So how Dr. Shashibala, she was putting effort to know the meanings. I was just going through this. I was really fascinated. It's just beyond as a scholar on the historical account of Lama Atisha Dīpankara Śrījñāna, but actually learning the real legacy of the transformative, the legacy of Atisha Dīpankara Śrījñāna in terms of how to cognitively transform your mind, how you effectively transform your mind to make you somebody who's more sensible, who's more calm and happy yourself, and to spread this happiness and calmness to others. This, I think, is the main message of Dr. Shashibala from this to this evening's discourse. And before we wind up, I'm just wondering if the audience, you have some questions. You make your questions very precise so that Dr. can you, and if not, others can also learn from. So, anyone? Raise your hands, quick. Yes.
How do you go to China from Tibet?
Atisha's teachings to China. No, but why you see, Tibet is Tibet. China is China. So today, because it's a part of politically, it is a part of China. You can say that it is in China, but otherwise, no. Buddhism, it is different route, different time period. Everything is different because in China, the way the texts were translated, how they traveled, which masters came from China by Silk Route or by maritime route, that is a different history. No, no, no. It's totally different. No, no, no. In Tibetan, Kanjur and Tanjore, there are more than 5,000 texts and in China, in Chinese Tripitaka, there are more than 3,000 texts. Organizing these texts, everything is different, yeah.
I'm very curious about for a long time I've been about the ethnic origins of Shashibala.
It's Indonesia. He was Indonesian.
No, but what he was Indonesian.
Yes.
He had another name.
Dharmakirti. Yes. Because in Indonesia these names, Sanskrit names are common. Even today, it's common.
So was he born there? I mean,
Oh, he was born there. He was a prince. Yeah.
and another thing, a lot of your sources are from Mongolia and China perhaps. We who study Atisha, we also study some of the works of his disciples who he met on the way to Lhasa.
Huh?
Before he reached,
Hmm.
he already knew that the
Yes.
Gomtum first came
Yes.
to Sarah.
Yes. Yes.
So I wonder if you found those legends also in these other sources.
I haven't studied them, sorry. That the same legends are other sources in other, I don't know. Maybe, I'm not sure. Sorry.
Two very simple questions. Atisha had many teachers. He studied both Sutra, Tantra, and finally he got connected to Tara. I mean, that became his deity. Did he really mention uniquely why he has really decided to adopt or take Tara as his deity? That is one. And part of that is that sometimes you hear that when Tara talked to him, she said that, okay, his life could be shortened by 10 years. In your presentation, you said that 20 years.
Yeah.
So, which is the source which really says, finally, it is 10 years, 20 years, or is the kind of general way of putting it?
Number one is Goddess Tara. Goddess Tara was he used to worship Goddess Tara from his childhood. So it was a tutelary deity, it is written, of Atisha. So the whole of his life, he was worshipping. Number two is about 10 or 20 said. You see, there are different biographies, different sources of history. So whether it's 10 or 20, it's difficult to decide because there is a controversy about it. So for me, I said 20 because of my resources, and it can be 10, but I'm not sure. But I don't go into these controversies because I just think that whatever happened, whether it was 10 or whether it was 20, but it happened. That is more important. So I did not just mention about this.
And it is also said that when he was going from here, he wanted to practice patience. And he carried the cook who was very annoying. And nobody talks about him. I don't know what happened to him. Of course, in reaching in Tibet, he said, I think he made a mistake by bringing him. Because he found that there were people who were more annoying than the cook that he carried him.
I don't know what happened to the cook, but I know about one disciple who died in Tibet, and he was very sad because there was nobody to translate. That means he didn't know Tibetan language.
Yeah, he didn't know.
He didn't know Tibetan language.
Even the Bodhisattva Pradipam also was composed in Sanskrit.
Yes,
And then he sent the copy to the
yes, sure, yes.
Even in current staunchly Hindu families, because it was whatever, there is this practice of Durgati Parishodhana Trailokya Tarini,
Hmm.
in which Goddess Tara is invoked once a year at
Hmm. In Bengal?
In Bengal,
Yeah.
in many families, not
Yeah.
only Brahmin families,
Hmm.
they don't link it to anything Buddhist,
Hmm.
but also I'm wondering why scholars like Shashibala,
Hmm.
he called the practice of Tara Chinnachar.
Hmm.
He called it Chinnachar.
Chinna?
Came from China, meaning
Oh. Why it so?
why I don't know.
I don't know why it's so.
Books because
Yeah, sometimes the books are very confusing for people like you and me. I think there are others also, scholars, who will accept that sometimes we don't accept even the very highly established scholars, their views. But whatever is there, their contribution is immense. They at least carried it forward, maintained it so things did not get lost. So otherwise, many things would have got lost. So we respect them highly, all the scholars, whether we accept, we are the people of Shastrartha. So we can debate, we can discuss, come to a conclusion whether you believe in God or you don't believe in God, doesn't make a difference. You can be astic, you can be nastic, whatever. But everything is acceptable in our Indic religions, I should say.
does that mean that Indonesia they were studying in Sanskrit?
In Indonesia, there are proofs that there were important centers of Sanskrit. For example, Itsing was coming from China to India. On his way, he stayed in Java for 6 months to study Sanskrit grammar. So there are many such instances which shows that Indonesia, especially Java and Sumatra, they were great centers of learning, and also Sanskrit.
Its legacy is still continued or it's gone extinct?
Where in Indonesia?
Anywhere in the world.
No, you see, we cannot give a sweeping statement that dharma has gone down or had lost which parts. So we cannot say so. You go to any of the cities all over the world, there are all kinds of people. So
Many of his books written in Sanskrit are extant only now in Tibetan languages. What is the reason behind it?
Atisha's books,
In medicine, astrology, and
you see, it is, we owe so much to the Tibetans that they preserved the legacy. In India, we were not very careful to write history. We were not very careful about preservation of our heritage. The old manuscripts, very old manuscripts, you don't find in India. You find better and much older manuscripts in other parts of the world. And in translations, of course, as I talked about grammar, you can keep on and on. Last 2 years ago, I published the catalogue of Mongolian Tanjur, which was partly published, partly it remained unpublished because the scholar had passed away, unfortunately. So after 1975, the rest of the catalogue that could not be published, so I published it. So at least now it is in the hands of the people that which texts were translated. Now I am planning to get it translated into English so that Mongol, how many people do really read Mongol? So I made a project that let us get some funds so that this can be translated into English, and once it is translated into English, then we can make groups of scholars of from different areas, from Mongolia and from India, that these texts are there available in Sanskrit, they are not available, so let's retranslate them. So the same we can do with Tibet, because the Tibetan catalogue is available. Please.
Mine is not a question, it is just a comment. In 2022, I was in Bangladesh and I had traveled from Dhaka to Bikrampur, and I had the occasion to visit the memorial stupa
Yes, yes.
of Guru Atisha.
Yeah.
And I must say that Bangladesh is doing a very commendable job in excavating the Bikrampur monastery. And there are so many stupas are coming out. Whole corridors
Mm.
they belong to they have been dated to the time of Guru Atisha. Whole corridors.
Do you have some documentation from that? You must have.
I have
Okay.
what the university has given
Okay.
and from the museum.
Mm.
And of course, what I saw
Yes. Yes. Are they preserving after excavating? Okay. Yeah, because it's easy to excavate than to preserve. Because finally, when you excavate something and you don't have enough funds to preserve them, then it's better to let them be underground. So this is my just the way I think, because I'm seeing here in India also that so much has been excavated, but that is not well preserved. Look at the Vikramshila monastery. What is the situation there? It's very bad. It's better not to excavate. And what these countries are doing, because they want to have more tourists. So Buddhist sites have become a tool for them to have more tourists. From many countries, people come to these countries, for example, Pakistan and Bangladesh. So it's not for preservation of culture or dharma, but for making more money out of tourism. So anyway, whatever has been done, we know because of that. Otherwise, we do not know. So it's for historians, for authors like you, it's important. But preservation is equally important. That's why I asked you, because sufficient funds are not there even in India. They are in very bad condition and they are decaying fast now. Remaining underground takes time to decay. So,
Okay, more questions? If not, thank you so much, Dr. Shashibala ji. Thank you. Please give a round of applause.
Thank you. So with this, we have come to the end of today's program. Before I conclude, I would like to thank Geshe-la for chairing this session. And I also would like to thank Dr. Shashibala ji for your very comprehensive, informative and insightful take on Atisha's life story. Thank you so much for that. And of course, to all the participants here for joining today's session. Thank you. Last but not the least, I would like to request Geshe-la to kindly offer a katak and souvenir to our convener, Dr. Shashibala ji. Thank you. We'll now have a tea break for 20 minutes, and after that, you can visit our museum, which is on 3rd floor, where the exhibition is held. So you can have a look at it there. First, we'll have a tea break for 20 minutes. After that, we'll go to the 3rd floor. Yes. It's exhibition. It's 1 floor above from here, so it's just 1 steps.